Well, there have been some transactional moves this offseason in NCAA Division One women's volleyball where they simply have gotten our attention. And the latest now is Tom Mendoza leaving South Carolina for Marquette. And he joins me now from one of the most underrated cities in America, Milwaukee. Although in the winter it is a little brisk. But how are you? Your head must be spinning a little bit.
Yeah, I again talked with them last week. Got offered on Saturday, Sunday night, signed and was here Monday morning. So it's been like I said, my list right now is still in the phase where it's getting longer. It's not getting shorter yet. Hopefully as we get through the end of this week, my list starts getting shorter. But I'm not anywhere close to that yet. But I'm just thrilled to be here. The players have been in my office for a majority of the day, which has been the best part. We've just been getting to know each other and getting a lot of face-to-face time. So that's been the hard. That's been the great part. It was really hard to have that conversation with the South Carolina players, and that was really kind of devastating. And talking to those recruits because just really good people, and that's it's just really disruptive. But then to then come and to talk with the Marquette players, kind of picked me right back up. And like you said, Milwaukee's a great place. Marquette is a very special place, and I'm excited for it.
Well, let's go right to the big question, and we'll get to the other stuff after, which is, you've gone from a Power Four school, an SEC school in South Carolina, to the Big East, where it's a whole different landscape and a whole different environment. And the only thing that I can use for an analogy this year was when Matt Ulmer went from Oregon in the Big Ten to Kansas in the Big 12. But it's not the same. Your move is just flat out different. And you said to me, it's a really good fit for you.
Yeah, and I think having been in the Big East and having been at Creighton, I knew how special a place Creighton was when I was there, and how fondly I thought of my time there, and how good of a community that athletic department and that university had. And so then when I started talking to Marquette, it became very, very clear that was their staff, their employees, their student athletes, the university felt the same way for that feeling that I had a while ago at Creighton. And so it just again, the sense of the community, the sense of the experience that we can provide for the athletes here. I think it is unique because there are a lot of big state schools that can play volleyball, and maybe not a lot, but there's a pretty good amount of big state schools that can play volleyball at a high level for student athletes and their families that that don't want to go to a state school, that don't want to go to a football school, who want to have a more personalized college experience, a more values-based education focused on that. But also want to play top level volleyball nationally. There's not that many places, and Marquette is one of them. And there's a lot of people looking for it, and I think the experience of that Marquette offers and that the Big East offers. I mean, the cities we get to visit, the experience that our players get to have going through a fall, I would put up against anything. And you've seen the success that they were able to have last year. Yeah, we can play it. We can play at the highest level, but have a different experience than most other places can offer.
You are a Midwest guy anyway. I mean, Northern Illinois, right?
Yeah, Palatine, Buffalo Grove, that area.
Yeah. And so coming back to the Midwest is not unique. One of the things I've known Tom a long time, and I've always said that you're the poster child of the way I wish everybody would build their resumes. And that is incrementally, you were an assistant coach at Creighton. Then you got the job at High Point, which hadn't been to the NCAA tournament, I think, in like about 6 years when you got there, and got things going at High Point, which is a smaller program. And then you went to South Carolina, which hadn't been to the NCAA tournament in a long time. You got them turned around. And I think there's a lot to be said for having some building blocks under you when you get to this point in your career.
Yeah, I think, well, you oversold my start. I started as a volunteer, which I think is just a invaluable experience, under Kathy George and with Russ Carney and Mike Golick on staff there, and just kind of learning, how college volleyball works, how to be a professional, how to do this as a
That was
profession.
at Michigan State, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and so yeah, Michigan State got to go to the Sweet 16 our first year, like you said, and then go to Evansville for a year and a half. And Creighton had never been to the NCAA tournament before our first year, and so to be a part of that, and then we made it 5 years, and Kirsten and Ange and they've built it into just this national powerhouse. And so yeah, and then High Point was first time as a head coach, and I think we had been to the tournament once in the previous year and made it both years. Just to be that was just such a good group of players that I got to work with while I was there. So, and just again a grateful group. So, and then to go experience the SEC, and especially when I got there, that like you said, 16 years. I think 2002 was the previous time that South Carolina had been to the NCAA tournament. So just how grateful that group was. That you see others, like South Carolina women's basketball being so successful. Like we wanted to be nationally successful. And so to get to experience that those first 2 years, and then COVID was obviously incredibly disruptive, but to get things back to where they've been, making it again another two times after that. And again, the culture that was there at the end and how hard it was to say goodbye. So incredibly thrilled for that process. But I think I'm really, like you said, it's a long path, but I'm really excited with where it led me to. And that's, being excited to be at Marquette.
No doubt. So it's called 900 seconds, but let me get about 60 of them to the SEC because you're there 7 years and you saw a lot of big volleyball growth go on there. I mean, there's a bunch of schools hired coaches with big names from the West Coast, and there were investments made, and the league got incredibly more competitive over the time you were there.
And I think culminating in the last three, Kentucky winning a national championship, that was a big deal when Kentucky won a national championship. And, just shout out, I think Craig Skinner is one of the most underrated coaches in the country for what he has done and how many SEC championships he's won. And people always talk about who are those top coaches. I think he's what he has done is incredible. And to get to learn from Mary Wise, and what a great resource she was for our the SEC. So yeah, you got to coach against some really good coaches, and you're in the deep end, and you're trying to keep up with a lot of really good coaches, a lot of really good programs. So but I think that'll be the question. What does the next 5 years look like, and how are things positioned moving forward? And I think there's certainly advantages to. There's good and bad things about being at a football program at a football school. And I think we're going to see kind of how that all plays out in the new world. And yeah, I think that was another thing about coming to Marquette was I think we can be competitive in a top program nationally in the new landscape of what college athletics is going to be. And it kind of as it's going to be more increasingly transactional, I think places that are more focused on those relationships are going to be in a pretty good place.
Well, the Big East is composed primarily of small private Catholic schools, and it's a whole, like you say, it's a whole different landscape. There is something, I don't know, irony is probably a little strong, but interesting the fact that Ryan Tice, of course, was a coach at Marquette and left to go to an SEC school. He leaves you behind. It's not like this is a rebuilding project. However, you did lose, a lot of very, very talented players to graduation, from that team. I can go list them all, but you knew who they were.
Yeah, I'm all aware. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
what's the cupboard like, and what's the incoming recruiting class? Because I assume that's job one: re-recruit the current players who are already there and re-recruit the current recruits.
Yeah, I mean that's everywhere. That's every school every year now, and especially in the world of transfer portal and all that and all that stuff. Is you gotta make sure you're keeping those and building those relationships. Commitment's not the end. Commitment is not the end of it. Even arriving on campus isn't the end of it. We got to make sure we're continuing to build those relationships with our players and that they feel like this is the best place for them every single day. Because graduating good players is a sign of a good program, and so I think that's something that we're proud of, not worried about the fact that we graduated quite a few players. I flew in yesterday, but practice was in the morning, so I got to see the first practice this morning.
I was just going to say, as we're doing this Monday afternoon, you're there like 36 hours so far.
Yeah. So I got to see. I missed practice yesterday, but I got to catch practice this morning. it's a talented group, and they're driven. They're driven to be really good and keep taking those steps forward. So, and I've haven't been able to connect with all of our commitments and signees, but I've connected with a good portion, and they're fired up and they're excited as well. And hopefully, we're going to add to that, and not just in this class, but over the next few years. And yeah, I think there's a lot of people that really like what Marquette has to offer, and that was kind of what I learned in my time at Creighton is that this environment is really attractive to high level players and people that want that. So that's my job, but I think it's a pretty easy sell once people kind of learn what it's about.
Yeah, no, you're doing a good job of selling here on this for the people who are watching. Any recruits? He's saying all that. No, no.
Well, I think you said like why, like like I think there's always a question of why do you leave? Why leave a program that made a tournament? And I think again, I'm not saying anything. I loved my experience there, but I'm fired up with for what we have here.
Did my video just blink away for a second?
It did,
I
but
think I hit the wrong button. I'm new to this. Our old pal Ethan Feister is coming with you.
he arrived about what time is it? He arrived about an hour and a half ago, so he's about a day and a half behind where I'm at. But yeah, Ethan's here, and again, I think he's hopefully he'll help me kind of shrink that list as well. But having him and him knowing what I value and he's an incredible coach and so yeah, I think he just got here. He's going to be in the gym tomorrow, so we're up and running. Our players that they leave for spring break after this weekend, so for us to at least have a couple days in front of them is I think pretty important.
Absolutely. Ethan, of course, and I go way back when he was at LSU, where I used to live in Baton Rouge, and that was my hometown team.
Yeah.
So yeah, good guy, good coach. Any other spots on your staff filled yet?
I think that this was a big deal was getting in, and now we're kind of gonna go from there. Like I said, next week spring break, so we're trying to get here, spend as much time, you mentioned earlier, spend as much time interacting with our players, trying to get on a call with all of our 25s and 26s, and make sure we're building those relationships, and then hope evolve next week to kind of hopefully catch up a little bit.
Um,
So, but yeah, Ethan's from Shorewood. Sorry, he's from Shorewood, so he's a local boy. So he's back home.
Good. When's your next recruiting weekend? Are you guys out this coming weekend or soon after?
I believe I'm getting introduced at a men's basketball game here this Saturday, and then I think I'm going to try to either get to, I don't know, Indy or Louisville or something Sunday, Monday, and so we're figuring that out. So I just got my computer, so I can do this interview. That's about as far as I've gotten.
I know he just got the new computer because they're tinkering with it, trying to get this to work right. So Kirsten Bernthal Booth, the coach at Creighton. Of course, you worked for her. She's one of the coolest people in all of volleyball, and I'm sure she's thrilled that you're there and you guys have stayed friends. And now she's going to try to beat your brains in.
And that's okay. We're going to do the same thing, and I think you can have a lot of respect for people and then go compete really hard against them. No, but like I said, like I enjoyed my time there. I've been incredibly proud of anything that I was able to do to help that or be part of that or get to work with those players. We got to see Taryn compete this summer in the Olympics, and there's a lot of she was at LSU after Creighton playing beach. So yeah, I'm incredibly proud of it. And they were a couple swings away from a Final Four, and but yeah, we're gonna line up and compete our butts off and try to play as hard as we can and hopefully get wrestle some of those trophies away from her. But obviously a ton of respect for everything that they've been doing year to year.
All right, we got about 60 of those 900 left. You got to make a schedule.
I think we got some. I think I've got to confirm a schedule. I think is the most of it. So I think we've got pretty much a lot of it signed, set up. We're just going to confirm that fits right, and then get some contracts signed.
You find yourself a place to live, and all the life things that go along with all the other volleyball things we've been talking about.
Thankfully, I married up, so I've got Megan's taking care of, helping us take care of a lot of that stuff.
Awesome. Tom, of course, we've known each other a long time. I was thrilled when you got the job at South Carolina, and we kept in touch. He's been a loyal supporter of the stuff that I've written and the things that we've done, and vice versa. So I'm thrilled for you. And I hear they got beer in Milwaukee, so when I pay you a visit, there you go.
In the Jesuits, we know how to have a good time. So yeah, I look forward to a lot of fun athletic events.
All right. He's Tom Mendoza, the new coach at Marquette. Thanks for watching 900 Seconds, and go to the link and sign up for the only all volleyball daily email.